All right, everybody, welcome back to the Western Rookie Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Johnson, and we have a returning guest today, Kurt from Western Obsession. How you doing, man?
Hey, Dan. Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's that time of year where, especially for a Western hunter, like for a whitetail hunter in Iowa, if I didn't do any traveling, I have about a month and a half left until I can even start thinking about going out in the woods and hunting. When's your first hunt this upcoming year?
Saturday.
No shit. Where are you going?
It's an archery pronghorn hunt here in Colorado.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's one of those, what's nice about being in the Midwest or the East Coast, typically you're hunting pretty close to home and you can do day hunts.
Yeah.
A lot of time for me, most of my hunts are pretty far away, so I have to travel to wherever I'm going. Yeah. And so I'm away from the family a lot. But for this hunt, I get to like run out to a little property 20 minutes from me and scare off a bunch of pronghorn, come home and have dinner with the family, so.
You're kind of living that whitetail life.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's cool, man. And then from there, what's your hunt schedule like this year?
It's not super jam-packed, but I do have a big one that I'm really excited about. So September 8th, I go to Alaska on an archery moose hunt. I drew a pretty cool tag in Alaska and pretty stoked about that one. I've never killed a moose, only hunted moose one time in Alberta, did not end up killing one. But I'm pretty excited about this, man. And there was a big debate, and I have a consulting company and for hunting, right? And so my team was giving me a bunch of crap that I was just bringing a bow because I really wanted a bow hunt. You can rifle hunt it too.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, wait, you're not bringing a rifle at all? I'm like, no, wait, why should I? He's like, this is a trophy once in a lifetime moose hunt in Alaska. You're not bringing a rifle? I'm like, well, I guess, you put it like that. Maybe I should. So there was a big debate, big controversy of like, what do you do? Do you bring a gun? Because what happens, Dan, you bow hunt. Like when you bring a gun on a bow hunt, you put that bow down pretty quick, man. Gun, right? So yeah.
I mean, especially here's the deal. I used to be like this bow hunting purist where I didn't even think about, I will never pick a gun up. I'm never going to pick a gun up. And then I started getting older. And then I realized after hunting all these Western species, how hard it actually is to not only get to the places that these animals live, but then get within bow range of them without them hearing, seeing, smelling you. Right. Yeah. And so that just becomes all the layers that are involved with it. And so I'm sitting on a lot of preference points for Wyoming. And so I am having debates about what I want to do. Like my archery elk hunt, that's going to be a bow hunt. That's my only thing. I want to kill an elk with a bow, but my mule deer and my pronghorn points, I'm not so sure that those might not be rifle hunts.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I've kind of flipped the script a little bit.
I think if I had a lot of points for pronghorn, that would be a rifle hunt for me.
Yeah.
Because if you're drawing a tag in a unit there's not a lot of hunting pressure, so you're probably looking at more mature, bigger pronghorn. The game at that point is just finding the biggest one you can find, the oldest one you can find, right? Once you find him, know that like you could reach out there and he's pretty much dead. But and if you're burning a lot of points on a mule deer hunt too, sure. But I really like archery mule deer hunting. It's so much fun. Yeah,
I do too. And let's be honest, killing an animal with a bow is a much cooler story than with a rifle.
Oh, and just so much more fun. And I said this to one of my consultants. I was like, look, when you're daydreaming about shooting an animal, are you shooting them with a bow or a gun? And 100% of the time, I'm fantasizing about the bow shot, not the rifle shot.
Yeah. Yeah. But I also get the scenario that you're in, where how many years have you been collecting points for this draw? For
Alaska, they don't do a point system. It's a true draw, like a true lottery draw.
Lottery, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but I had a 3% chance of drawing the tag. And so, when I drew it, everyone's pissed because I'm pretty lucky when it comes to drawing tags.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with a guy actually on this podcast. It would have been years ago. Maybe it was this one or the Nine Finger Chronicles. I can't remember. Anyway, the guy was telling me he was 19 years old and drew the Gila unit in New Mexico, which is a 2%. And he drew it as a 19-year-old 2 years in a row.
Oh my gosh.
So he got really, really
Holy
lucky.
Cow.
Yeah. And there's 70-year-olds that have waited their whole life and still haven't drawn on that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, dude, I don't even know if I want to tell this story. So many people will think I've cheated to get that tag. So,
well, that's the beautiful thing about a random draw. Like you have the exact same amount of opportunity as anybody else that goes in,
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. I got some questions for you I'm going to ask today, but before we do that, I got to send a shout out to all of the partners of the Western Rookie podcast. First and foremost, one of my favorite things is hiking up to a top point, a big high point, and starting the day as the sun comes up, glassing for mule deer when I go out west, or elk, or whatever species I'm after. And I do that with Vortex Optics. They have spotting scopes, they have range finding binoculars, they have range finders, they have traditional binoculars, red dots, anything that is optic related, they have it. vortexoptics.com. Next on the list is Montana Decoy. Montana Decoy offers packable, lightweight, realistic looking decoys that help you get inside that bubble, make the animal feel maybe just a little bit more comfortable, so that when that moment of truth happens, they're looking at the decoy and not you drawing your bow. Go check out montanadecoy.com. Next and last on the list is Wasp Archery. If you guys are looking for mechanicals, fixed blades, most of their heads are still manufactured in the United States, and I'm talking about a lot of damage, even on marginal shots. Go check out wasparchery.com. I do have a discount code NFC20 for 20% off. Thanks for taking time to listen to the partners of this podcast. I really appreciate it. Now go spend your money on them. So, okay, Kurt. The good Lord comes down from heaven and he stands right in front of you and he says, dude, you're too good at killing animals. You can only hunt one animal, but I'm going to let you pick it. Elk, mule deer, or antelope. What are you choosing?
Well, for sure not antelope. I do enjoy hunting antelope, but they just don't get my blood pumping like elk and mule deer do.
Yeah.
So, man, that's a tough question. I really enjoy archery elk hunting in the rut. That's one of the funnest things ever. But I also really enjoy glassing for mule deer, the challenge of finding the big mature deer, right?
Right.
Super, super fun. But if I had to pick just one, probably, well, I'm going to put a caveat to this is I get to be physically fit for the rest of my life. Okay.
He blessed you with ultimate physical fitness too. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it'd be elk, hands down, man. Archery elk hunting.
All right, cool. What is it specifically about hunting elk in the rut that you love so much?
Well, I love the physicality of it. I'm a big fitness guy. I love pushing myself to the limits type of thing. And archery elk hunting is that, man, 100%. That's like the Super Bowl of hunting. That is my Mosogi every year, or whenever I can do it. So the physicality is huge, and I love hearing the bugles, man. And, waking up before the sun comes up and you're like hearing those bugles at night. Sometimes when you're in your tent and when you're in elk, you're hearing bugles and you can't sleep. So you're so excited that you're hearing bugles that it's just a blast, man. And elk are one of the most magnificent animals on the planet, man. If I look at all the animals I can hunt, every animal from Africa to Canada to even bighorn sheep, and like on every country, elk is they just fascinate me, man. I just love them.
Yeah. Okay. Talk to me about how many elk hunts do you think you've been on over the course of your life?
Oh, I don't know. It's probably not as much as I think I've been on, because I didn't really start elk hunting until 30.
Yeah.
And I am 46, will be 47 here soon. So, probably 15.
seasons of elk hunting.
15 season of elk hunting. So sometimes I've gone on 2 or 3 elk hunts a season.
Yeah.
So we'll just call it 20 maybe.
Okay. All right. So with that said, what are some big takeaways that you have learned, or what maybe something that you respect about the elk that make them the reason that you chose to hunt them?
Well, where they live also is pretty cool, right? Like pronghorn on the flats. Like there's definitely a challenge to hunt a pronghorn, especially with the bow. I'm not a blind type of guy. I like to spot and stalk. So that's definitely a challenge. But elk live in the most rugged, far off on a mountain spot as you can find, man. So you have to go into where they live, into their world. So that's definitely one of them.
Yeah. Okay. And so what is it about the bow hunting aspect of all of this? How's that add into the mix?
Well, it's the hardest way to do it, right? I use a compound bow. The traditional bow or a longbow would be the hardest way, unless you're just going to try to do one with a knife, which I don't think is legal.
or safe. I might just put safe. Yeah.
Yeah, both. But with a bow is the hardest thing. And there's been so many times, man, when I've been 100 yards from a big mature herd bull, and I just cannot get the distance closed, or I didn't cut him off and they're moving and, he's in a big herd, too many eyes. There's so many times I'm 100 yards from my target bull, and where I'm like, God, I wish I had a muzzleloader. If I had a muzzleloader, I could shoot 100 yards. Yeah. Or he's 150. I wish I had a rifle, or whatever, right? There's so many times. It's just the hardest way to go about it. And I'm an opportunity hunter. I love rifle hunting. I have a muzzleloader elk hunt this year. But the bow is the ultimate hunt. You are the ultimate hunter. You can't just be 500 yards away from the elk because you found one, and because you've practiced and you're dope, you're going to kill that animal. It's still props, man. It's still a hard shot, and you found a good bull, but the ultimate hunter has to be within 50 yards. I shot my bull last year at 73, so we'll call it within 75 yards of an elk. And you have to be pretty skilled at doing that.
Yeah. What have you learned about elk behavior? Let me, I don't want to ask that question yet. I want to take a step back and go, when you do go elk hunting, and I know you've kind of hunted them with a variety of different weapons, is there a season that you've hunted them the most in? Is that
probably archery?
The archery. So the September breeding season time frame.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, that's probably been my most experience is archery elk hunting. Obviously, I had a rifle. I took my daughter on a New Mexico rifle elk hunt last year. That episode just aired on YouTube. Yep. But for sure, archery. And if you want to get into tactics, man, I think that's where you're going, right? What did I learn? Yeah. But we can get into tactics too, but I'll let you lead the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing with that. All right. So when you're the tactics of a late season rifle hunt and a bow hunting rut hunt are probably quite different if I had to guess. Okay. So when it comes to this bow hunting, the rut for elk, talk to me a little bit about what you've learned about elk behavior in that time frame.
I mean, kind of how it differs from late season,
or just in general. What are these bulls doing? How do they act? Or do they get spooky, or whatever, all that stuff that you've learned over the years?
Well, actually, I just gave this advice to a hunter. A client of mine that was is going to do a do-it-yourself archery elk hunt this year. And he's like, hey, I'm going to Colorado. I have no clue where I should really go. What do you look for? Can you give me some advice on where do I start to go on this elk hunt? And I said, look, obviously being on the East Coast, and this will get to your point here, Dan, I'm just making a roundabout way of doing it, is look, when you're e-scouting, here's my process of narrowing down. And this has a lot to do with elk behavior. Yep. Okay. First, I'm going to say what area of Colorado I want to go in. All right. Well, listen, if you have a bow, is it did you draw the tag or whatever? Like what area you going in, what unit you're going to go into. And once you find the unit that you really want to go into, and when I look at units, I look at how much public land is on there and yada, yada. I'm looking at trails that are not motorized. I'm looking at trails that are hiking only, because anybody can jump on a 4-wheeler trail and get anywhere. And as soon as they hear that motor, those elk are, moving off to their little honey holes, their little spots they know that no one gets to. Yep. Right. And then once I found that out, then I start looking at the actual geography on e-scouting, right? I look, and here's the main things I'm looking at. This gets to your point. I'm looking at bedding areas on northern facing slopes, because the elk are going to want to go into heavier wooded places mid-morning to find shade to bed, right? So northern facing slopes has heavier wooded areas with shade. They're going to go in there and bed. And then early evening, they're going to go out to the southern facing slopes for food, because that has the best grass typically, is southern facing slopes. And then these elk are going to feed all night. So as they're feeding all night, they're also, here's the other major thing I look at is water. If there's no water there, their elk won't be there. So they need 3 things. They need good cover, they need food, they need water. So that's their major behavior. Once they find that without pressure, they're just going to be there. They're not going to move anywhere else. They have those 3. Now, so those elk are going to be feeding all night, and early in the morning, where the sun comes up, as soon as the sun breaks, those elk are slowly going to start making their way back into the bedding area. So that's your basic behavior of elk, right? Yeah. So evening food, eat all night, water at some point, go back into the bed. And a lot of times they'll water during the day. They'll get up off their bed and go to water. So for me, how I'm going to take advantage of that behavior is I'm going to get on a glassing knob before the sun comes up so I can see where the elk are at. A lot of times I may do some night bugling if I have no clue where the elk might be, so I can steer some bugles at night, because they bugle at night quite often. I'm going to spot elk in the morning. I'm going to figure out where their bed's at. If I can get between them and their bed, I'm going to make that happen. But a lot of times they're way faster than you, how they just walk in the mountain. So you're going to figure out where they go to bed. And now you know where they're going to be feeding, and they know where they're watering. If there's no pressure, they're going to be there. They're not moving anywhere, because that's where they want to be. Yeah. And I'm either going to make a decision as, okay, am I going to wait until they go feed this afternoon, and I'm just going to take a nap during the day myself? Or am I going to go in their bedding area and slowly make my way silently into a bedding area and see if I can find them in the beds? Yeah. So that's really the decisions that I'm making based upon their behavior. And what makes that decision for me is, am I going to wait for them to come out, or am I going to go in the bed? If I feel like I don't have a good opportunity for feed when they're out feeding, and my only opportunity is right then and now, maybe I'm short on time, maybe there's hunting pressure, then I will go into the bed. But I typically don't like going into the bed. I don't want the elk to know that I'm there, so I don't even really call that much. I don't want them to know I'm there. I want to ambush them. I want to figure out how to put on a spot and stalk type of hunt, man. So Dan, I rambled a lot, man. Hopefully that helped a little bit.
No, it did. And what you're telling me, there's this trend. This is crazy, right? Because when I first started elk hunting, all of the research that I did, and the magazine articles that I read back in the day, and even some of the digital content that I would consume, YouTube, articles online or whatever, was like bugle. But as I get to talk to guys like you, talk to some of my other friends who are just slayers out west, these guys don't even bring their bugle tubes or calls, maybe a cow call, but a bugle tube with them. They're saying that does way more damage than it does success. It's almost like it's so rare to find a bull want to come in and charge when you bugle that it's not even worth doing it anymore. And so it's interesting to start seeing or hearing others say, and the trend of a successful deer elk hunter is that they don't even bring their bugle tubes. So that's very interesting to me.
Well, and there's 2 thoughts on this. And as there's definitely those guys that love calling, and they're like aggressively call all the time. And I get it. Their game is they're only going to play with the bulls that respond to them. And they're okay with 70% of the time, bulls not responding, maybe moving their cows up the mountain, getting away from that other bull, not wanting to fight. They're okay
Yep.
with that because it's very exciting to call in a bull. That's
Yep.
so much fun. It's so exciting. They're screaming and bugling coming into you. You got an ambush set up. They're coming to pass the shooter into the caller. Like, that's probably the most fun you're going to have on an elk hunt. And I understand that too. But a lot of times I'm solo, which kind of makes it a little bit harder.
Mm-hmm.
But my mindset is like, look, I don't want to blow 70% of the elk out. I don't want 70% of the elk to move up the hill with their cows, up their mountain with their cows, because they want to get away from me and not have an altercation with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I would much rather, as long as there's no hunting pressure or whatever, and knowing that their elk can be, I'd rather them not even know that I'm there and take my time and slow play this and wait for my opportunity, wait for the right wind and see where I can just put down a spot and stalk and get in tight,
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing that you said was, and this is more of I want to know the answer to this because when I go out to Colorado, we hunt in a lot of dark timber. Mm-hmm. There's obviously way more dark timber than there is meadows where I've hunted in the past. Like even to get to some of these meadows for us in the public that we were, well above 10,000. And I can remember the one time we were at 11.6 was almost right at tree line. There were still some trees above us and there was even some elk above us as well. So trying to find that when you don't get the opportunity to glass these elk up before they make it back to the timber, how are you locating them?
Yeah, a bugle. And that's okay. I will bring a bugle tube. I will bring my calls, but I don't use them that much. I'd much rather glass them up, but if I cannot, and I got to find elk somewhere, I will do some night bugling myself and see where they're feeding. At night, they're pretty calm at night. It takes a lot to rattle them. And as long as your bugle is not just absolutely horrendous, they'll bugle back. So I'll do a lot of like just night bugling and sometimes you just run the road systems, right? Get off to a cliff off the road, throw out a big bugle, hear one off. Okay. There's elk off in that general direction. And maybe that's the area you go hunt the next day. So I'll do a lot of night bugle. I'll do, sometimes I'll bugle midday too, or a cow call midday. Yeah. So another strategy of mine, I call this trolling, which I don't know, man. Like some people maybe think I'm an idiot, but this is another strategy of mine is like, I'll get into the deep timber in midday. If I don't want to like just chill, I want to actually hunt, right? I don't want to take a nap under a tree. By the way, I love naps under the tree midday. It's one of the best things, but I'll troll. So I'll get in the deep timber where I think they're bedded and I'll walk through the timber. And sometimes I'll try to be as quiet as possible just to go super sneaky. If I'm 80% sure there's elk in there, and I'll see if I can see them before they see me or get a whiff. But if I have no clue where the elk are at, I won't even be that sneaky, man. I'll make noise and I'll step and I'll break branches, whatever, but I'm not a cow call. I'm trolling with cow calls. So I'm cow calling. I'm sounding like a herd of cows kind of moving through the trees with some like calf calls and some cow calls. And I'll get bulls to bugle out of their beds. They're probably not going to come to me. It's a lazy bugle, right? But that's another way that I can locate him. Okay. And you can kind of pinpoint, okay, he's maybe 200-300 yards off in that direction. So then I'll just shut up and see if I can sneak my way into where he's at. And I don't want to blow him out. So maybe I'll cow call again and try to see if I don't know exactly where he's at, or maybe I'll just shut up and just post up maybe 100 yards from where I think he's bedded and see if I can ever hear him get up or hear him do a lazy bugle, and then I'll move in. But man, I hate giving my position away.
Okay. It's interesting to me that you said you hate giving your position away. However, you are willing to do a location call. It's not like you're trying to call them into you, right? You're calling to where they at. So if you're doing it at dark, you're looking, that they're in this drainage for the hunt in the morning type of deal. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
But you're not trying to necessarily pull a herd bull off of its herd.
No, I never try to pull a herd bull off its herd, man. And I know some guys can do it and maybe have had success with it. In my experience, freaking probably 90 times out of 100, that herd bull or the cows, they don't want the altercation. They're just move their cows off away from you. And a lot of times the cows would do the same thing. The cows will move off away from you. I know a good strategy is to do calf calls, because sometimes you can get a bull to come away from his herd into a calf call, and then the cows aren't intimidated or not. They don't feel like there's competition if it's a calf call. So sometimes if you're cow calling and you're trying to pull that herd bull off with a cow call, those cows will move the herd bull off, because you're a stranger, man. They don't know who you are, and they don't want that competition. They don't want the stranger coming into the herd. So they're going to move away too. So I don't know, man, that's a lot to throw at somebody, but that's just my experience. Take it with a grain of salt.
So where have you found your most success archery, elk hunting, in the mornings or afternoons?
Probably
Midday,
mornings.
Mornings.
Yeah. Mornings are typically best. Man, that's tough, man. I don't know. All the time.
Yeah. So you're an equal opportunity slayer, right? It's
For sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The hardest thing is probably to move into them when they're bedded. That's the hardest thing to do. I'd much rather try to see them when they're feeding and make a play on them, or get between them and their bedding when figure out where they're going first, try to get good wind and get out in front of them and ambush. I'd much rather do that.
Yeah. And so when you do that, and let's say you've located where they're at, you feel they're bedding in there. Are you going in to try to shoot the bull out of his bed, or are you waiting till he stands up in the afternoon? So you're basically just positioning yourself on top of him.
Both. If I can get in tight enough where I can shoot that bull either in his bed or when he stands up, because he's going to stand up at some point. Yeah. The problem is you got a lot of eyes. Usually you got 10 to 20 cows in there with you, right? So if I can get in tight enough and I can get a shot, I'm taking a shot for sure. But most of the time you're not going to be able to get in tight enough because of all the eyes. And then I'm just going to stay on the perimeter. And that bull is going to get up and round up his cows. He's going to go check his cows. So if you're on the perimeter, that bull's going to come around and make sure all his cows are in his harem where he wants them. Right. So you will get a shot as long as you're not seen and you're not winded. The winded part's the hardest thing, man, because you're going to be there for a bit, and the wind never stays, man. It's always swirling. It's going to shift with the thermals, temperatures changing all the time. That's the hardest part.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how many years do you feel like it took you to get comfortable with the strategy that you've created for yourself?
Oh man, most of these years.
Yeah.
yeah. Most of them, man. I'm still fine tuning. I don't think that I'm a better hunter than anybody else. You know, I would never say I'm a professional hunter by no means.
Right.
I'm still learning. Every elk hunt I go on, I learn, right? So, but no, it took me a long time, man. When I first started archery elk hunting, I was just some idiot walking around the woods with a bow. I had no clue what was going on. I didn't know their patterns. I didn't know their behaviors. I didn't know that they fed all night. I didn't know where they went to bed. I just heard someone say, you should go in the dark timber and still hunt, which is just walking slowly through the dark timber, right? Like, okay, I'll try that. I didn't even and I would just move all the time. I wouldn't even get up on a glassing knob and glass, right? So like there was a huge learning curve, and it just took failure after failure after failure to like get this thing figured out. And that's the best way to learn, man. You could look at as many YouTube videos and read as many books or whatever you want to do, learning how to elk hunt, but you're going to learn so much faster by getting boots on the ground and just trying to find elk and get into elk. You're going to learn so much faster.
Yeah. Yeah. You just described to me every time that I went on an elk hunt, just some dumbass walking around the mountain with a bow. Like, dude, I can't believe how no one ever talked about this portion of it to me. No one said, you know, like with mule deer, right? You can get to a point and you can see them and you can glass them up and you can watch them bed down and you can know where they're at. And maybe you can do that with a little bit of elk. But at that elevation and the distance you have to travel in that elevation and the ups and downs and the deadfall and all that stuff, no one ever said to me, be prepared to be extremely frustrated. And I don't mean like frustrated, like, oh, I left the coffee pot on. I'm talking about just the intense frustration that I felt like I was just getting my ass kicked for 8 days in a row. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Well, I think you have to set expectation as a new elk
Right.
hunter, right? Like if you're coming on an archery elk hunt for the first time, we'll call it Colorado, your number one goal should just be staying in the field, not
yeah.
wanting to go back to the truck. That's number
Right.
one goal. Can I stay here for 5 days? Goal
Yeah.
number one. Goal number two is going to be, can I find elk? I'm not, your goal should never be to kill elk. If you killed one your first couple times, man, you got really lucky. Yeah.
And I hate your guts.
Yeah. 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 So like, set that expectations and those realistic goals. Stay on. Can I stay in the field? Can I find elk? Okay. I can find elk now. Now, how do I get close enough to them to where I might have a shot opportunity?
Yeah.
And in that moment, that's where you really learn a lot, man, is like trying to get close enough to them to get a shot opportunity. You learn a lot right there.
Yeah. What are you thinking about? What's going through your head when you're inside that kill bubble and you're just at that point, you're just waiting for him to stand up, or you're waiting for him to walk by you? What's going on in your head?
Oh man, I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
100% freaking out. I'm in kill bubble and I'm thinking about all the things that are about to go wrong. Yeah. Oh my God, the wind's going to switch and they're going to win me. That cow's going to see my movement. And I'm analyzing everything rapidly. What are they doing? What do they want to do? What's going on? What's the wind doing? What's my movement? I got to like stay super, super still, right? Oh man, eyeballs are in my direction. Don't move, don't move, don't move. All right. How am I going to get drawn back? Like, I'm freaking the heck out, man. I'm just trying to stay calm and like not below it, because that's the worst thing, man. By the time you're, let's say, within 50 yards of the herd, right, on a herd bull, you've already hiked miles upon miles upon miles. You already has beat the heck out of yourself. You've probably spent days upon days trying to find elk, and now you're finally within, and that stalk may have taken 4 hours to get within 50 yards, right? Like, look at everything that's gone into that, and then all of a sudden you're in kill zone, and one little thing can just ruin everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Are you, do you have any additional tips and tricks, or maybe here, I'll backtrack. What about something that if you were to tell an experienced elk hunter something that you do that has helped you become successful, that they might go, boy, that's strange.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any of those?
Yeah. Well, something just came to my mind is like, when I'm talking about like freaking out and trying not to make any kind of mistakes at all. Yeah. But sometimes you can get away with a lot more than what you think. And there's always a moment right there that you have to make a decision to push it and push the envelope a bit to try to get the shot opportunity. And what I mean by push it is like, okay, I'm in the herd, but I think they're moving off here. I got eyeballs on me, but I think I can move without that cow barking at me. Mm-hmm. If I can move without that cow barking, she may notice my movement, but she may not know what I am, and she may not get scared. There's been many times I've actually taken off, not running, but like slowly moving, where the elk have seen me, but they didn't bark and they didn't get alerted. And I got away with moving, them seeing me and still being able to make a play in a bull. So there's always a moment of like, can I push this and have to make a move to get a shot, or am I going to just back out so I don't blow them? And you can get away with a lot more than what you think you can.
Yeah.
In that moment.
Yeah. So it's almost like a razor's edge. Sometimes pushing the envelope, you get away with it. And then sometimes the bark comes and they're gone.
Yeah. It's a gamble, man. And, it's a game time decision of like, if I don't get to this tree that's 40 yards to my right, I won't get a shot at this bull. And who knows where they're going to go, and will I ever get a shot again? Do I push it and make that move, or do I back out or just sit still knowing I'm not going to get the shot and hope they give me another opportunity in the next couple hours or something like that, right?
Yeah.
That's just a decision you got to make.
Yeah. Okay. What happens when you get out there? Obviously, we know that weather in the mountains can be unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what happens when it starts to rain or weather starts to shift or snow or something like that? Do you fight through that when you're already out there, or are
For
you
sure.
bailing?
No, for sure. I'm fighting through it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that really comes down to, and I'm sure you've heard this statistic often of like 10% of elk hunters kill elk archery. Not even, right? It's probably lower than
Yeah.
that. But of that 10%, it's the same guys killing elk every time, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why that is those guys are staying in the field longer. It's the guys that like, okay, I'm out elk hunting. It's starting to snow. I'm getting uncomfortable. Maybe I'll just go back to the truck or the lodge or whatever and wait for the snow, wait for a better opportunity, and I'll go out in a day or two.
Yeah.
Those guys are not successful typically. It's the guys that can stay in the field the longest that are going to be successful. Heck, man, like I was on an elk hunt and it had been raining. It rained on me for like a day and a half and like rainy, sleety snow, but super wet. And I got completely drenched. My
Yeah.
boots got drenched out. My socks, I didn't have extra socks on, in my pack. My boots were completely soaked and I stayed out, and then it got super cold at night. Right. And my thinking was, okay, let me take my boots and socks off, to sleep in my sleeping bag. I didn't have a tent. I just bivvied out.
Mm-hmm.
And, that way I can be warm in my sleeping bag. Well, the next morning, my socks are frozen and my boots are frozen,
Yeah.
completely solid. Like I just hold my sock up and it just stood straight up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at that moment, like, what are you going to do? Like you're there, you're on the Elk Mountain. All I did, I pulled out my jet boil, unthawed my socks enough to put them on, and then shoved my feet in my frozen boots, and eventually they unthawed, right? Like, but most people would have given up right there
Yeah.
and called it good, but you
Yeah.
don't. It's staying in the field. That's what it is.
Yeah. That's tough, especially if you're not acclimated to that environment. Like I can remember, and I had a sleeping bag. Well, I got multiple stories of how much of a douchebag I was out there, right? But but like I can remember I brought a tent that went down to 25 degrees. Well, for 2 nights in a row, I had my sleeping bag went down to 25 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2 nights in a row, it got down to like 10, 12, 15 degrees at night. And I was freezing. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get a lot of sleep that night. And
Mm-hmm.
I had everything in this sleeping bag. I had all of my base layers on. I had all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I became exhausted quicker because I was
Mm-hmm.
not prepared, for that. And then another time I got wet, and a lot of my clothes got wet when I was in Idaho on an elk hunt, and
Mm-hmm.
it ruined it for me. And I did not tough it out, and I left the mountain, and I had to go buy a new tent, and I had to go buy go to a laundromat to dry out all my clothes. I didn't tough it out, and we didn't have any bull encounters or any elk encounters that week because I was spending more time coming out
Mm-hmm.
and then being in it. And so
Mm-hmm.
a lot of lessons that I could, yeah,
I'm not a big gear snob. Like, I don't
yeah,
think that you need to buy the most expensive things ever to kill elk,
yeah,
but gear can help you stay on the mountain longer. And if you can stay on the mountain longer, you're going to have more opportunities, right? So,
yeah,
for your sleeping bag at 25 degrees, I'm sure you thought, well, if it gets down to 25 degrees, I'll be fine.
yeah,
But what those are rated for is survival at 25 degrees, not
yeah,
comfort.
yeah,
Like it's going to keep you alive at 25 degrees, and that's it. So
yeah,
I'll actually use a 0 degree sleeping bag, and I'll carry it because it's heavier, because I want to be comfortable at night. I want
yeah,
to be warm. I don't want to be miserable. I want to get good sleep so
yeah,
I feel a little bit better the next day, so.
100%. Um, what are some, I don't usually talk a ton of gear on this
Hmm.
podcast, but I'm kind of interested in like, what are some elk hunting specific pieces of equipment or clothing or products that you're pretty jacked about, or that have in your opinion, have a make or break effect on the outcome of your hunt?
Again, it all comes down to staying on the mountain. That's it, right? So you
Yeah.
got wet.
Yeah.
By getting wet, like you know, You could tough that out and be on the mountain, but you're going to be pretty miserable on the
Yep.
mountain because you're going to get cold and it's going to get dangerous with hyperthermia, right? At
Yep.
night. So it's a pretty scary thing you can be in, and it's pretty easy to say, nope, I don't want that hypothermia scare. I'm going to bail out the mountain. So, rain gear is super important, man. You got to have really good rain gear. There's been times I've been on the mountain where like it rained 3 days straight, and I'm not in my tent 3 days. I'm out in the field hunting. Yeah. I really enjoy hunting in the rain. I mean, there's positive and negatives. So like really good rain gear, really good boots, because if your feet go, it's going to be pretty miserable too.
100%.
Right.
Yep.
So rain gear and boots, and then like what you're wearing, especially your under layers, your base layers are pretty important. You don't want to get wet and stay wet. So I really like a merino wool base layer. Yeah. So I know I'm going to sweat a lot, but I don't want to stay wet when I'm sweating. I want it to dry fast, and I want to continue to have warmth. So that merino wool base layers are fantastic for staying warm, but drying fast. So that's super important. Layering, super important. Having a puffy in your coat or in your back, that's really important. But man, as you're understanding here, is being on the mountain is the most important thing. As far as other gear killing elk, I don't really get too bent out of shape on like what broadhead I'm using. Like I nerd out for sure. But like I really believe you can kill an elk with, as long as you pop 2 lungs, man, he's dead. So use whatever you want to use, Yeah. Other little things, man, that it's not make or break, but I really enjoy is some electrolytes in my pack. I think just drinking water all the time, you get pretty exhausted. That electrolyte, that flavoring is like a little treat, and it keeps you hydrated, and it keeps you feeling better, and you can push harder longer. Obviously, we do a lot of freeze-dried types of food. It's high-calorie base. It's lightweight. You can carry around. Things with high fat is going to keep more calories on you. Your body craves fat when you're low-calorie and depleted like that.
Yep.
There's some other gears things for you, man. Chapstick. Gotta have chapstick,
dude,
man.
That's a very underrated, dude. Chapstick. Yeah. I can't, especially when you're in like a prairie situation or extremely dry environment, and all day long you're just sitting there, and it's not, your activity isn't the only thing draining your hydration, but the air and the dust and the wind, all that, dude. Chapstick, dude. That's a great one. That's
being comfortable, man. Like trying to be as comfortable as you can. And when you're going to get dehydrated, you're going to have wind ripping through you. If you're up on glassing knobs, your lips are going to dry out. They're going to crack and break, and you're uncomfortable, right? So chapstick's huge. Yeah. Wet wipes are nice too. I like having some wet wipes. Yeah.
Yep. What do they call those?
I know what you're talking about. Dude wipes. Yeah. Some dude wipes.
And then they deteriorate over time. They're biodegradable. So you can do your business out in the woods and not have to use leaves or whatever.
Yeah. Another thing I like when I'm archery hunting, I'm going to give this guy a plug, man. He's a good dude, Armando, with the bow hitch. It's a little thing that you put on your bow. I got it back here in my office, but it's a little like bracket you put on your bow, and it connects to your pack. So like, so you're not always carrying and holding your bow. And I know that sounds like I'm being a big Nancy about it, but it does weigh a little bit on you, right? Like after days and days and days, sometimes it's nice just to hang it. And not have to be carrying it on your shoulders or carrying it under your arm, or always having it carried somewhere. And then when you go to glass, man, you just hitch it, your hands free, and you can glass, and it's just, you're not throwing the bow on the ground. Like, I like that little piece too, man.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, the first handful of years I did a backpack hunting, I tried to be very minimalistic. And then I realized like, I'm not a minimalistic guy. Right. I like to be more comfortable. Like there's some guys out there who are like cutting spoons and toothbrushes down to to save a half an ounce, that kind of stuff. I'm not that guy, but I'll tell you this one thing that I did, and it helped me with my bowel movements, but it also helped me with my mind. Was I packed an apple, not a huge apple, but I packed an apple for every day that I was going to be out backpacking. So if I was going to be out on a spike camp for 3 days, I would pack 3 apples. And that way, at the end of the, like in the middle of a day, I'd grab an apple and have this fresh type of food to eat that wasn't a granola bar, or it wasn't a freeze dried meal or something like that. And that for some reason gave me like this mental, like, pick me up. Like, I got it now. I got it. For
sure.
So, I don't
know. Having a treat in your pack.
Oh yeah, dude.
Is it's super important. Yep. You know, because it's hard, man. It's tough and you're miserable most of the time. But if you know you got a treat at the end of the day.
Oh yeah.
And whatever you enjoy, right? Like for you, it's that apple.
Yep.
But whatever your treat is, man, to have at the end of the day. I will say that I'm pretty minimalistic, and the reason why, when I first started, man, I brought everything with me. My pack was heavy as heck, right? Like and it just wore me out so fast. I'll set a little base camp, and my base camp is like my 2-man pitch tent, right? I'll set up a tent, but most of the time I'm not in my tent. Most of the time I'm in a bivvy, and I hate coming back to camp. I hate it. And the reason why is usually you're going up somewhere, right? And then you got to come back to your camp, coming down or whatever. And a lot of times I'm quite a few miles away from my little camp, and I don't want to come miles back to my camp to be able then in the morning to wake up early to go miles back to where I was at because I found elk. If I found elk, I'm staying right there, man. I'm not coming back to camp. There's no way you're getting me back to camp.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I try to stay super minimalistic, but it definitely bit me in the butt a few times. Like, last season, I was away from my camp, and I brought like 1 day's worth of food and had some food back. I'm like, I'm gonna go down in this canyon for a bit where I know there's elk and see how that goes, and then I'll come back and get more food. Well, I didn't want to leave this drainage, so I was there 3 days. Only had 1 day's worth of food, so like it bit me in the butt a little bit. Of like, and I just didn't want to leave, so I just didn't eat for a couple of days. You know what I mean,
dude? So, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could do that. I've drained myself. What's crazy is when you're hiking that many miles, and then nobody puts together the math of how many calories you're actually burning when you're hiking at that like high elevation or that many miles of just up and down compared to, because like, I don't know about you, but when I go out west, I don't train 7 days a week walking 8 hours a day. You know what I mean? Nobody does that. No. So towards the end of the week, like I can remember that one of my first elk hunts, especially in Colorado, I think I lost like 15 or 20 pounds over a 5-day hunt.
Oh yeah.
Like I was peeing gravy. It felt like, you know what I mean? So
well, yeah. Well, and here's what everything we're talking about boils down to one point: mental toughness. 100%. And I say this in a lot of podcasts, like, look, there's no way you're going to be able to train for this. Okay. You want to be in the best shape as you can be in. So do a lot of running and work out. What I do is I train my mental toughness for those moments, for the moments that my boots are frozen and my socks are frozen. For it's been raining on me 3 days. It's been snowing. I'm down in a drainage in elk. So I'm excited. I'm not going to eat for 2 days. And you know, you've lost 10 pounds already. It's day 3. Like all of this is what we're talking about is mental toughness. Yeah. That's it. Like you have to be mentally tough to stay on the mountain. Yep. So like, my training, like you said, I'm not going to train for 7 hours a day of hiking. So I'm going to go do something that hurts as much as I can make it hurt, and that sucks as much as I can make it suck. Yeah. And as long as I don't quit the workout, I've built more mental toughness.
Right. Okay. Quick shift here. So we talked a little bit about archery and your high level strategy of how you play the game during the breeding season. How does your strategy shift during the late season, or maybe even everything from post rut to the end of the season with maybe a rifle?
Yeah, the gear is going to change a little bit. Like I'm not really, like, even when I'm rut, I'm not really focusing on calling, but I have calls. I'll have the bugle tube. They're late season. I don't even bring a bugle tube. My gear's different. I'm gearing up for colder weather. I'm gearing up for longer sits on the glassing knob, understanding the behavior's different. So like during the rut, those bulls are moving, finding cows, right? So they're covering ground. If they breed some cows and they want to find some new cows, they get kicked out of a herd. They may go a mile, 2, 3, 5 miles to find more elk, right? So they're moving a lot. Late season after the rut, those bulls don't move at all. They find their safe little spot that's got food, shelter, water, and they probably don't even move more than 400 or 500 yards during the entire day. So my entire game plan is glassing. That's my entire game plan, is finding a peak that I can see as much ground as possible, get up to before daylight, which is super cold in late season. So I want to be super bundled up. And I'm going to sit there and glass until I think the elk are back in their beds. And then if I didn't see anything, that means there was nothing there to see. And I'm going to move to a different area and do the same thing that evening. And then if I don't see anything, I'm move to a different area, do the same thing that morning. Like all I do is glass, man, until I find them.
Gotcha. So there's not really a lot of moving around. They're either there or they're not. And if they're not there, you're going to go out at prime time to try to catch them. Mm-hmm. And if they're not there, you're not spending all day out there.
I'm not.
No.
Cause if they're not there early in the morning, that means they didn't come back to their bed and they're not going to come out and feed, right? Like this, There's no ghost elk coming out and feed if they weren't there in the morning, right? So I'm going to a different knob where I can see different area for the evening. So really the only physical part is me climbing the mountain and then bailing out if there's nothing there or nothing I want to go after and getting into a different area. You know?
So obviously the snow has a lot to do with where they're at. Is there an elevation number and I know this is maybe a difficult question to answer, but is there an elevation that elk seem to be floating around in the post rut where they've dropped down out of their 10,000 plus range, mm-hmm. or are they still up there?
It's all weather dependent. So the elk, they want to be away from pressure. They want to be away from people, right? So if there's no snow, they're still up high. There's no reason for them to drop down. It's all about the snow, right? And big bulls, like when you think of like elk moving down because of snow, we're talking about moving down in elevation, typically and onto BLM, private land, lower elevation, starting their migration routes to get to food. It's all about food. They want to, because if all summer long, they're feeding in an area. The sun may be burning up some places, not getting a lot of rain. And then through the rut, they may have depleted that food source quite well. And then when snow hits, now they got to get through the snow to get to the food. It could burn too much energy for that to happen. So elk in general will start moving to lower elevations where it's not as deep as snow. Right? That's what they typically do. Or they start moving into where they like to go winter range because historically there's more food in their winter range. That's all it's about. But big bulls, that's elk in general, but typically older mature bulls won't come down with most of the other elk. They'll wait longer. So even as snow hits, you may not be finding elk up high, but if you find some tracks up high that are fresh, 9 times out of 10, that's a mature bull. And you only find one set of tracks in the snow, but those mature bulls kind of wait quite a while, man, before they move. And once they know their little hunting hole of where they're safe and they don't get hunting pressure, they're not moving from there, man. And a lot of that snow is not going to move them. And I don't know if you've ever been on an elk range, like a winter range, but you don't usually see monster bulls on a winter range. You're seeing a lot of cows. You're seeing a lot of younger bulls, raghorn, spikes. And because that's where the majority of the elk go. But the big bulls, man, they find their little spots to hide and they're not moving from them.
Okay. And so they almost go loner. Once the breeding season is over and they're done.
They go loner, or they go bachelor groups of just the boys again. Isn't that funny, man? Like summertime, they're just the boys hanging out in velvet. All of a sudden, it's time to go to war, and they all fight. And then after war, they're boys again, right? Like it's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, man, sorry I gouged your eye out, but oh, no big deal, dude. You want to go eat some grass? Yeah. So when that happens, you mentioned you mentioned that you don't bring your bugle tube with them. Do they just go quiet? Do they ever speak up? And are they even callable in the late season?
I mean, I'm sure this is a bit controversial. I'll just kind of give you my experience. The elk are always talking all year round. They're doing some kind of talking, right? But they're just not as responsive to other bugles. There's really no need for them to be. The only reason that they respond to other bugles is like, let's say it's during the rut and they hear a bull bugle off on a different ridge. They want to cut that bugle off so his cows don't hear it. Or other cows don't hear it. They want to be the dominant bull in the area to call cows into them. So they're hearing another bull. They're going to fire back right away to cut it off and drown it out, right? That's the whole reason behind the bugle. Now, it's not in the rut anymore. It's postseason. They don't really have a reason to cut off a bull anymore. So if I'm out there bugling, most of the times they're not going to bugle back. It does no good anyway.
Yeah, I feel that. Okay. Anything else from your strategy? Okay, let's say this. Once you've been bouncing around to ridges, you went into a ridge, don't see anything, went to another ridge. How long do you give a drainage before you come back to it to inspect it again?
Late season?
Yeah.
I don't come back to it.
Okay. So you're confident.
The only way I'll come back to it if I see some elk get bumped by another hunter and I think they went in that drainage and it's something I want to go after. Okay. Otherwise, man, Dan, the older I get, man, the more conservative I am with my energy. So if there's not something I want to go after, I don't go.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I just was curious if, it's almost like whitetail hunting, right? Like I know that at some point there's going to be some deer, a deer come through this trail and my tree stand is right here. And I got to pick what tree stand. I don't know for sure, and I also don't get to see that every day. So I didn't know if like you have like a 3-day rule or a 5-day rule or something like that, where it's like, okay, I inspected this drainage. There's nothing in it. I'm just not going to come back to it the rest of the late season.
Not unless I think some elk got bumped out of there, a big bull got bumped into there by another hunter or something like that, or I saw elk going into it. Yeah. Because you have to understand the behavior. If you understand the elk behavior, big bulls or bulls in general are either by themselves or with other bulls, and they're not moving anywhere because they're conserving energy. They just lost, you lost 15, 20 pounds in that week. They're losing hundreds of pounds, right? Like they're losing a lot of weight during the rut. So now it's post rut and they're barely surviving. Yeah. They're barely alive and they're conserving as much energy possible, just eating, sleeping, and drinking water. That's all they're doing. And they're not moving anywhere. So if you understand that behavior, you're understanding like, okay, there's no elk in this drainage. There's no elk going to go into this drainage just because, right? Unless they get bumped into it. So if understanding that behavior, then you just won't go back.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, dude. I like these conversations because I'm trying to envision myself out in the mountain with the words that you've said. And, it makes me want to start burning preference points now. It makes me want to start applying for Colorado again and getting out there and things like that. Whether it's late season, I think what to do is very important, but what not to do is also very important. Whether it's the rut, a archery hunt, or it's a late season rifle hunt, do you have any no-nos? Like, dude, I know people talk about this, but don't do it. Just don't do this one thing. And that's going to actually be more beneficial for you.
A couple things come to mind. Time is real valuable, right? So if you're one of the first times you're coming out elk hunting, whatever state you're doing, usually guys go to Colorado, don't just come out the day of the season. Try to come out at least a few days ahead of time. One, to acclimate yourself to the elevation. Do some scouting the best that you can, because it doesn't matter how much e-scouting that you do. Some access points might not actually be access points. There's been so many times that I had one game plan and that trail wasn't a trail, or that access road wasn't an access road, and now I'm scrambling to try to figure it out. So, you're spending a lot of money, a lot of time to get out to do an elk hunt. give yourself a couple more days in the front to figure out some access stuff first. And the other thing I would say, just don't do the mistakes that I did. My first, few years elk hunting, it was like, I was not patient. I just didn't want to sit still. So I just hiked and hiked and hiked and hiked and hiked and just went through timber and just trying to find elk. Well, I'll just hike through this. I'll hike over here. Midday, I'm out hiking ridges like I'm going to find elk. I'm not going to find elk. I know that now, right? So it's more important to let the glass do your walking rather than hiking. Only thing you're going to do by hiking is you're going to spread your scent around. You're going to bump out animals that you're never going to see anyway, and you're never going to have a shot at it. So definitely don't do that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I can remember doing everything that you just said not to do on a couple of my elk
Me
hunts.
too, though.
Yeah,
Me
exactly.
too, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Was there how many years into it? I mean, obviously I don't want to say it's easier, but it's probably easier for a Coloradoan guy who lives in Colorado to hunt Colorado elk, right? How many years did it take you for things to start clicking and for you to understand deer or elk behavior and okay, well, if the thermals are doing this, then I'm going to do this. If the thermals are doing that, then I'm going to do that. Or those types of things. How many years?
Well, first I'll preface, even though I live in Colorado, I live on the eastern side of the metro. So in order for me to get to a spot where I want to hunt, I'm hours upon hours of driving.
Yeah.
So I'm really not that much different than a Midwest guy, as far as it'll take a day for me to figure out and get to where I want to go hunt, right? Or scout.
Yeah.
So, don't let that be an excuse. Okay, I live in Iowa or Nebraska and I just will never get out there. Just do it, right? But anyway, to your point, how long did it take me? I did something that really shortened my learning curve. And about 15 years ago, I hired a guide to take me on a rifle elk hunt. And probably the best thing I've ever done, because I stumbled around the mountains for a couple of years and had no clue what I was doing. I hired a guide and I shortened that learning curve in 5 days, probably 5 years and 5 days. And all I did was just pick that guide's brain, man. He probably got so annoyed from me because I just asked question after question after question after question, right? And by the end of that hunt, I knew elk behavior so much better. Just hey, why are we doing this? What are we doing now? What about that? Just watching and learning and just asking questions after questions while we're right there in the mountain. Obviously, 15 years ago, a guided elk hunt was a lot cheaper than it is now, but it really shortened my learning curve by 5 years. And then I could figure out, oh, okay, well, now I've just jumped out 5 years. Now I can find elk and I understand at least some general areas where I probably should be going. And now it just got to a point of getting into elk and refining that moment of I found it. How do I get close? And through trial and error and failure, figure out, okay, well, don't do that again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay, I'm 200 yards from this herd bull. I'm going to rip a big bugle and see if he can come in. Well, that didn't work. Don't do that again, right? Or, trial and error for a long time, man. And I'll be honest with you, after 15 years of archery elk hunting, I'm finally just starting to feel like I'm getting dangerous in the woods, that I'm lethal in the woods. And I feel pretty confident when I find elk, I'll be able to move in and have an opportunity to kill something.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, I tell you what, Kurt, as always, this has been a great episode. I had a great time chatting with you. The next time you come on, I want to do the same thing, but I want to do mule deer.
Let's do it.
And talk mule deer. So, go do your hunt. Maybe in, September after your hunts, we can connect on another episode. But man, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day. I want you, cause I haven't watched it yet, but I noticed you've been promoting it. What is the newest video that you launched about your daughter?
Yeah. I took my daughter on an elk hunt in New Mexico, and the premise of this video is, this was me, man, she's a teenager. And I think you guys can probably relate to this if you have teenagers, as they get older, it gets harder and harder to talk to your kids. And by me pulling my daughter, and she likes to hunt, so it wasn't like I was dragging her out there, but we went on this hunt together. And what it really did was it got us out in the wilderness, away from technology, away from our problems, away from the to-dos, and we got to connect and talk and have a goal in mind, and we're out hunting. And so what I did was, this is a different episode. I actually wrote a letter to her, and I read the letter over the episode of the things I want her to know that are important in life, that I may just not be able to sit down and talk to her and tell her. So it went really well, man. We had a little film launch about a week ago here in Colorado, and it's a tearjerker, man. I'm not going to lie. Like, if you have kids, man, you may end up crying. Not going to lie.
How old's your daughter?
She is 16 now, but she was
Okay.
15 when we went on the elk hunt.
Okay. I got a 13-year-old. So, so she's February baby. So she'll be turning 14 here before I know it. So yeah, dude, I don't know what it is, but I had a daughter. I became more emotional, and I bet you if it's what you say it is, I'll probably be the guy who ends up tearing up on that video.
Well, man, when I launched it at our Colorado Film Festival, and I will say probably 80% of people in that room had tears coming down.
Because 80%, I'm definitely crying. Yeah, buddy. Well, Kurt, man, good luck this upcoming season. I hope all of your hunts go well and safe. And I appreciate your time today, man.
Dan, thanks for talking, man. I appreciate you.